Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Feminine Forecast, where I am going to be talking about my natal sun and sharing a little bit about how I utilize that information in my business and mission. If you're new to the forecast and me, just know that I'm your host. I'm Karen Monaco. I'm a mystic and intuitive guide, a light worker, a healer, and I specifically support the divine feminine in stepping fully into her spiritual mission and building a badass business. Now, the Feminine Forecast itself is a bi-weekly resource that I put together. It's an energy reading that helps you as a healer and light worker align to collective energy so that you can show up and serve with more love and less struggle. So this week, like I mentioned, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my sun sign and where it sits, what that means for me specifically as a light worker. And then I'm also going to be sharing a little bit about the Lightworkers Mission Activation, which I released the last day of January. And I've had a couple of people express some interest and a couple of people say yes. So I'll share a little bit more information about that as well. But I do want to give just a little reminder, if you missed February's forecast, which is She Finds Her Strength, make sure you go ahead and visit that. We have some really amazing energy happening in February. And once you know about it, you're going to be able to flow through this month and not force a thing. So the Lightworkers Mission Activation, the reason I'm going to talk about this a little bit up front is so that you know why I'm talking about my natal sun, because to be completely honest, I don't love talking about myself. And it always just feels very self-serving and just kind of, I don't love doing it. But when I channeled about what I could do to help share the benefits of this offer that I've put together, one of the things was revealing a little bit about how I myself use it. Okay, so that was my side note, but the Lightworker Mission Activation is 4 one-on-one sessions held with me over 5 to 6 weeks. Now, that 5 to 6 week timeline has been carefully designed so that you have an opportunity to integrate, as well as an opportunity, if you need it, for a little bit of grace, because life happens and sometimes we miss deadlines. And I want this to be fun and easy and doable for everybody. Okay, so it's 4 sessions held over 5 to 6 weeks. And the first session, the first time you and I come together, we do a look at your natal chart. Your natal chart is where all of the planets were sitting in the very moment that you took your first breath. It's a little bit of an energetic blueprint that gives you insight into your natural strengths, as well as your shadow, which in my opinion, also is part of your strength. But in this reading, we really focus on these aspects of you and consider how we can highlight them. And we also take a look at the shadow aspects and explore how you can integrate them, how they're presenting, but also just to be aware of them so they don't come to bite you in the ass, because I know that some of my shadow aspects do just that. And I'm going to actually share that with you in this forecast. Okay. And I'll go over the rest in more detail, but just a general overview. In session 2, we talk about how to connect with your ideal perfect fit soulmate client or soul family member. In session 3, we talk about how you can collaborate with them on that transformation. And then in session number 4, you and I sit down and explore how you can make this a lifestyle change, how your mission can be very much a part of your life as opposed to running it, which I know is a trap I have fallen into, or being excluded from it, which I know is something that many of the women I support have said that they're just so busy, they don't know how to get it started. Okay, so here we have, if you are catching the video, you are getting a little peek into my soul. Feeling a little vulnerable here, like it's all laid out in front of you. But if you're not, just know that my sun sits in the zodiac sign of Aquarius in house 12. Okay. And so your sun sign, what does that actually mean? Because in this chart reading that I do for you in the Lightworkers Mission Activation, I explore your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign, specifically through the lens of how that's going to support you in your spiritual mission and business. Okay. So our sun sign is really kind of who most people know us as. And here's the other thing that's really interesting. It's usually how you see yourself and how you really try to put yourself out into the world. So at times it can fully function as a mask. Like with all of our planets, it holds keys to our gifts and our strengths, as well as our darker shadow aspects, which I know I already said it, but I'm going to say it again. Our shadow aspects are very much a part of those gifts and strengths, and they hold so much untapped power in them. And then our sun sign also shares a little bit about our leadership style, or what zone of leadership we tend to fall into. So as an Aquarius sun, I hold the archetypes of the visionary, the revolutionary, and the rebel within my energetic blueprint. Now, you do too, if you're listening to this. It might just be in a different way. For me, these energies are very dominant, especially in the year of 2022, because my solar return has a lot of Aquarius going on in it. But you have Aquarius in your chart. And so the visionary, the revolutionary, and the rebel archetype is also present within you. Like I said, it might be pretty strong, or it might have a more subtle energy to it. It just is what it is. Okay, so here I'm going to talk a little bit about the light aspects, and you're going to notice that so I'm talking about the light aspects, but I am very transparent with where the light has at one time been a little bit of a shadow for me. But I also am going to speak later on about the actual shadow aspects that are super present within me and that I have to stay on top of and be mindful of. Okay. So as an Aquarius sun, I'm a natural rule breaker. I am not afraid to question social norms or really question authority, which depending on who you are, you might be saying, Karen, is that really a light aspect? And it very much is. I'm just resistant to rules. I'm resistant to authority, to tradition, and really structures that I'm being told I have to follow by others. Okay. Now, these serve me really well because I'm not afraid to speak up about what I see is really wrong with things. Now, this could at one time, or this can be, and it was at one point, a real shadow aspect of me because I used to be extremely vocal about certain changes that I really thought needed to take place in order for us to have that new Earth experience. But I stopped because I became aware that a lot of people really just aren't ready to hear it. And I wasn't necessarily delivering it in the right way or with pure intentions. Okay. You live, you learn, you integrate is the way I look at things now. All right. So that's a little bit of that shadow aspect where I am not afraid to speak up and to challenge things, but I have to make sure that I'm doing it without the shadow of arrogance or just kind of doing it just to do it, which is a very common trait in Aquarians. Okay. Now with my Aquarius sun, it does mean that I have this ability to peer into the future and really see the potential in things. This is that visionary attribute of Aquarius. But sometimes, here's where it gets a little slippery. I'm really great. I'm fantastic actually about seeing potential and peeking into the future, but I'm not necessarily always capable or able of seeing the way. And I think, it was funny. I was putting this together and I was like, this must be why I have so many Capricorn soul sisters, because Capricorn is excellent at seeing the path and getting to work. Okay. But this idea of, or this trait of seeing the future, but not necessarily knowing the way to it is very typical of Aquarius energy. But we have other aspects within our chart that help us to balance that. Now, with looking at this bigger picture and exploring things from the higher perspective, I often can see what's available to others before they can see it themselves. And to that note, because of that, because I can see people as an individual and because I can see their potential and have it untainted by, the social norm, I don't believe that one size fits all. I don't believe that there's only one truth. And I actually am very excited and motivated by the idea that we can all be here doing our heart-centered work and not doing it the same way. Okay. And this is really why, here we are in the age of Aquarius. We're here to be a part of that paradigm shift. And I very much find within my business, I'm supporting that paradigm shift because I call people to get into the heart so that they can be who they came here to be and do what they came here to do. So rather than allowing society to dictate who I am and how I do business, I allow my heart to lead that. As an Aquarius, I'm pretty damn intuitive, especially when it comes to collective change, shifts, and transformation. I have this very refined ability to tune into the collective unconscious. And this is really amplified because my sun is placed in the 12th house, which is the spiritual center of oneness. So I am able to see into that bigger picture, into the collective unconscious, into what is laying underneath the surface, tune into it, and identify changes that would be really beneficial to us and for the greater good. As an Aquarian, I'm really motivated and really fueled by change. I have a really hard time connecting with people who are just content, staying where they are, especially if they don't like where they are. So I don't get people who talk a lot about doing stuff but don't do anything. I kind of am programmed in with this, I don't necessarily think we want to call it a mantra, but with this mindset of, I think if something's broken, then fix it. And if it isn't broken, but you see a way to make it better, then please do so. All right. So really motivated by seeing things become better, by seeing that transformation take place. Now, on a personal level, and really now that I'm speaking it out loud, I see this in my business as well. I have a very small inner circle. I often find that I know a lot of people. I also know a lot about a lot of people, but not a ton of people know a lot about me. And that's intentional. That's just how I'm programmed. Okay. Because Aquarians, we aren't afraid to go it alone. We're very independent souls. Aquarians also tend to need a lot of space. And that is so true of me. I mean, I could go weeks without really engaging with humanity. In fact, that would be my preference, social distancing. And I know some of you know this about me, but social distancing was totally my lifestyle and my speed. And because I need a lot of space, I've learned to have some very strong ironclad boundaries, especially because some people take my space as an issue or as me shutting down. And I'm like, no, it's just me doing some self-care. Okay. And then the final light attribute that I'll share about Aquarius and that I see very present within myself is that I do have this inherent belief that everyone, regardless of where they stand in regards to my truth or my lifestyle or my choices, that every single person deserves respect and every single person should have equal rights. Okay, so that's the light aspect. And like I said, I shared or dabbled a little bit in the shadow, but now I'm going to go full into the shadow. And just remember that we can't have one without the other. So it's very common for us to be able to take some of our light aspects and see the shadow within it, and then vice versa, see the shadow aspects with the light that's within it. Okay, and so I'm being very transparent with you here today. One of the big shadow aspects that's very typical of Aquarius is that Aquarians can be somewhat detached and even standoffish. Listen, I know my resting witch face game is strong. I have to be really mindful of it so that I don't shut people down or out or turn them away unintentionally. But it's part of my shadow aspect. I have that bitchy side to me. It's there. I can't deny it. And, I was thinking about when I put this together for you guys, I was reflecting back to a college exit interview with the department, with the head of the department. So I did my undergrad in theater studies, which is so typical of my Leo moon, but we're not talking about that. We're going to stay in my Aquarius sun here. But at that exit interview, the department head said that I was very smart, I was incredibly talented, but that I was extremely abrasive. Okay. And I've actually carried that with me for years, being very aware of that aspect of myself. Now, like I said, within the shadow, I see the light, and I'm not going to break out into the song from Rapunzel or from Tangled, but I really want to. So again, that Leo moon is coming in today, but what this department head received as abrasive, the light aspect is that I wasn't willing to engage in department politics, and I wasn't there to fluff anybody's ego just for the sake of getting a part or being a favorite. Okay. So they saw it as abrasive, and I saw it as me staying in integrity and me just being a solid human. Okay. Now, Aquarians. So we do tend to become a little bit of extremists and zealots for our cause. And I know that this is very present within me. So like I mentioned before, I tend to see changes that are going to be essential if we want to have that new earth experience. And that core change really being the dismantling of many systems that are basically at this point giving the world a false sense of security and structure. And a lot of people say that these systems are broken. You know, we heard this around the 2020 election. Everybody's like, oh, well, the system's broken. Personally, and I'm going to like the shadow side of Aquarius is also like the truth is the truth. So just, you know, listen to it. But I'll say personally, because I'm aware of it. But personally, I don't really think that any of the systems in the world are broken. I actually think that these systems are doing exactly what they are meant to do, which is keep us separate and at odds with one another, constantly fighting, constantly at war with one another. And so really my vision, or the way I see the future and the path, is that these systems must completely fall apart, and that it's going to take every single one of us being unwilling to engage with them. And I shared a lot of this during that 2020 election, and a lot of people I had to recognize, and this is my next shadowy bit. Again, I recognize that a lot of people were just unwilling to recognize, accept, or even consider that it would take something that extreme. Now, I share that now because that's out in the open. I have other beliefs, right, that I'm not going to say here today, but because Aquarians do tend to fall into this shock value, or say things and drop truths, uncomfortable truths, to shock people. Because we are, you know, here we are in the Aquarian age, we are here to very much play a role in awakening humanity. And historically, I totally fall into this category, because sometimes we'll drop truths to shock people, or just to be different and to be contrary and to know and to kind of express how much we know. But after I recognized this aspect of me, I was able to start to use it a little bit more appropriately. Because when we say things just to shock people, or we say things just to be different, instead of supporting the awakening of humanity, what I have witnessed is that it actually shuts people down completely and makes them not want to listen to you at all. Okay, so that is the shadow. I know that it's a little bit shorter than the light. And hey, listen, I want you to know that I've done, there was more shadow aspect for me personally, but I have done a lot of shadow work and integrated it so that it can be part of my light. All right. So now integration. How am I using this in my spiritual mission and business? So first up, you know, and I kind of use the structure of the Lightworkers activation to break this down for you. So the first step is connection, really talking about this paradigm shift in business that we're going to be engaging in over the next many lifetimes. Yes, uncomfortable truth bomb. All of this is happening over many, many lifetimes. Okay. But my service mantra is more love, less struggle. Now, this is a complete paradigm shift from the hustle, busy, and bullshit. I'm sorry, I mean burnout, but maybe bullshit is more relevant, that we're currently wrapped and trapped up in. Okay. And I very much believe when it comes to connecting with my clients that I want them to know that they can show up and do more of what they love, that there is a way, that it is possible. And I also encourage people to focus more on their magic than on their weaknesses, because a lot of the women I support are very much spirit seekers and lifelong learners. And they're the ones who are reading all the personal development books and spiritual development books, which often promote you have to fix yourself mentality, or make you feel like you're not enough, or there's something wrong with you, or all of these other things. And these are traps that I myself have engaged in and seen and experienced in my own journey. And so I feel like the way forward is to really just accept your quote unquote weaknesses as weaknesses, and instead really let your magic, let your strengths, your gifts, your passions fly out into the world. Now, in regards to collaboration, so how do I work with my tribe, my collective on their transformation? Well, I take a look into their future. I see what's possible. I see what their potential is. And oftentimes the women I support, they have a knowing that they're here to do something, and that they're here to live a bigger life and to really share themselves with the world, but they don't know how. And so when we come into session, we start to talk about that. I start to help them see for themselves, so I can see it, but it's more important for them to see it, what is available to them. And then I can guide them in a way that they can tap into that vision for themselves, and they can do the work that is essential and necessary for them to get there. And then commitment. So personally, that commitment that I talked a little bit about with the Lightworkers mission activation is really a commitment to yourself. So in regards to that commitment to myself as the Aquarian sun, I stay very present with these truth bombs that I willingly share with the world. I make sure that what I'm offering comes from a very good place and comes from a well-meaning intention space, instead of the shadow side, which is I'm just going to shock you into awakening or trigger you into awakening. And this has become even more needed or more a part of my personal work over the past several months, as I've talked more about shadow, and I've shared more about some things that we want to be aware of within the collective unconscious. And one of the ways that I do that is very simple. Before I hit publish on my work, I say, am I writing this? Am I sharing this? Am I offering this to others to support them or to shock them? All right. And then I'm also continuing to face my own uncomfortable shadow. As a healer, this is just something that I need to do. And I don't suggest people do anything that I myself am unwilling to do. Okay. So that is a peek into my natal sun. In a nutshell, I could talk for hours just about the one aspect and how it manifests in my life. But so let's go ahead and revisit what the Lightworkers mission activation is. And if you stick with me, I have a way for you to, using your tarot or oracle cards, see if maybe this is something that will serve you in your own work and in your own business. Okay, so we start off with that chart reading in session 1. We get together for about 75 to 90 minutes and we explore the light. We talk about the shadow and we consider ways that you can utilize them in your mission and business. So if you come to me with an idea of what you're here to do, what we're going to do is take those strengths and consider in what way can you use them to do what you do. Your natal chart, I hate to break it to you, I know there's a lot of astrologers that share this. Your natal chart can give you details and some insight, but it won't tell you what your mission is. Okay, there's aspects of it that will give an idea, but it's never going to lay out the full picture. So I'm assuming that when you come to me for the Lightworkers mission activation, you do have some idea of what it is you want to do, or at least who it is you are here to serve, or what the transformation is that you want to offer. You don't have to have all the details worked out around that, but you do want to have an idea. The activation is not for someone who has no idea, okay? So then in our second session, we talk about that connection piece, which is how can you reach those that you're here to connect with or those that you're here to serve? And we explore all of the options that feel good for you and then pick just one or two that feel good and that you can actually move forward with. So this isn't about showing up on all of the platforms with a ton of different content. It's not about burning yourself out. It's about finding the simple way, because when it's simple, it's something that you're going to be able to stick with, and it's going to serve you and therefore your clients a whole lot better. In session number 3, we talk about the collaboration. So this is that energetic exchange, that transformation that you offer to those that you are here to support. And we really consider ways to make it fun and easy for you to deliver, but also for them to digest. Often I work with women who they want to start serving or they've already launched and they have these really complicated offers that they can't deliver, but also that their clients can't understand because it's that complex. So we start out simple. Now, if you come to me and you already have an offer, what we do is we tweak it so that it is easier for you and it is exciting for you to deliver. And maybe what I will say often is when people come to me with one offering, there might be multiple ones within the one. So we find a starting point so that you can then build upon it rather than, again, burn yourself out, overwhelm yourself, or have to basically not sleep or not do anything but show up in your business. And then that final session, which, for me, this is where it gets really good because I've done it in a way. I've run my business. I've showed up in my mission in the past in a way where it ruined and somewhat ruined aspects of my life. And that's not what I want for you. And I've spent a lot of time making sure that that never happens again for me. So we take a look at everything that we've done over the previous 3 sessions and consider what stays, maybe what goes, maybe what's put on the back burner until you have a little bit more time or you've gotten some things going. But in this session, more importantly than committing to your mission, you commit to yourself so that you can show up in a way that feels really good for you. Now the investment, and this is only for February and I only have 5 spots available, but the investment for this program is $555. The price will increase, as will the time commitment, starting I'm going to say March 15th, because like I said, I built an extra time for this February process for 5 to 6 weeks. I'm going to build in a little extra time for myself as well. But $555, the link is going to be down in the description or down in the show notes. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can, wrong slide, but you can find me at info@KarenMonaco.com or on any socials at Lightworker Karen. That's my handle. But if you're catching the video, spoiler alert, we have a card spread here that's going to help you not just decide, hey, mission activation feels like it's aligned for me, but also just to get you started with your own activation. And maybe you even do this spread and put in some actionables and then come to Lightworkers Mission Activation with me. So the first card is, what aspects of your natal chart do you need to explore? Or what aspects of your natal chart do you need to explore? Wanted to make sure I got that question right. And for this question, I love to use decks like Yasmin Boland's Moonology decks. I have a couple of other astrological influenced decks, but I also have die that I can roll on the table and see where spirit wants me to take a look at my chart. Card number 2, how can you connect with your ideal client? And what I really hope you know is that your ideal client is going to be where you are most comfortable. You don't have to learn a new platform. You don't have to do something that's wildly out of your comfort zone to the point where you're not going to do it at all. So how can you connect? It's going to feel good. It's going to feel simple. Number 3, what is the best way for you to collaborate with your clients? So when it comes to the transformation that you're here to work with them on, what insight can your cards give you? Maybe it's a course that you're being called to create. Maybe it's a one-on-one offer or a package, but read into the cards or look into the cards and see what comes up. Card number 4, such a big point. What might block you from consistently showing up? What might get in the way? Maybe it's your fear of being seen. Maybe it's your fear of being successful. Often I hear women call that a fear of failure, but call it what you will. Maybe it's finances. Maybe they're saying you need to make a little bit more money before you fully go in. But yeah, just consider that and really address, is this a real excuse? Like, really, like, what's the worst thing that could happen if somebody fully sees me and doesn't like what they see? Like really addressing it from that angle. And then card number 5, what would support you right now? Now, what is it that you can ask your spirit team for? What kind of help do you need from your family? Card number 6. So if you are considering the Lightworker Activation, mission activation, what's the potential if you sign up, if you say yes? And just pull a card and see what the energy is, see what it communicates to you. And that'll be really helpful. It'll just be another tool that you can use to give it a confident yes or no that it's not right for you. Okay, so that is what I have for you this week. Please stay in touch. And like I said, send any questions over to me. You can find me at Lightworker Karen on Instagram, on Facebook. You can even, you can leave a comment on YouTube and I'll get back to you. My email is at info@KarenMonaco.com. And until next time, bye.